Today, we're here to talk about how to book and manage loads and work with brokers, and how to manage all the information for your trucking business so that you can earn more profit. And I am joined again, like I said, by George from TrueTMS and Heather from TB Trucking. So thank you so much to our partners for joining us tonight. And Heather, I want to introduce you. You have quite a bit of experience in trucking. You're running your own business. You are, let me see, dispatcher, operations manager, finance president, probably VP of sales and marketing for your company. Is that about right?
With cleaning lady and organization and HR and safety. Sure. Yes.
Yeah, compliance. I forgot compliance. There you go. So like many of the people I'm sure on this call, you are really a two-person show there at TB Trucking, and you do a whole lot for your company, and you probably need all of the tools and advice that you can get being in the situation that you're in. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got started in trucking and how you learned to do all of what you do?
So I started helping my husband, who as of April 1st of 2024 will have been driving truck for 35 years. I started helping approximately 6 years ago. I had no idea what I was getting into. No idea. One thing is when you start learning, or you start your own business, listen to everyone. It may not be something that you need to know at the time, but it will help a lot filling in the gaps as you go along. Always reach out and ask. If you don't know something, always ask somebody. If they don't know, a lot of times they can direct you where you need to go or who you need to talk to. And that has been so helpful. My husband was a lease operator for a few years. And then he moved to a different trucking company where we called the brokers or agents ourselves, and we booked the loads. And now for just a little over a year now, we have been completely on our own. It was a great stepping stone path to do that, because you got your feet wet a little bit and you got to actually talk to the agents. And that's where we started making a lot of our bonds that we have today.
That's a really good point. I think sometimes people jump right into being completely independent, even sometimes without driver experience, and that can be really challenging. That presents a lot of challenges to people. And I'm curious if you, the people in our audience tonight, if you want to share how you got started, how long you've been driving, or how long your business partner or whoever you're working with has been driving, how much experience you have in the industry, really is correlated with your success as an independent business owner, because you kind of learn the ropes, learn the rules of the game, and all of that. You talked about learning how to dispatch yourself. Talk to me about how you get loads now. What are the tools that you use? What are the load boards you like? And how would you characterize your strategy of how you get loads?
We use DAT board, our DAT board. We use Truck Stop. We're part of Mercer Load Board. There's a few other ones that I'm missing. They're on a lineup across the top of my computer every morning. So, but just today, so Troy picked up a load today. And I called the agent and I was like, okay, he's loaded. He's on his way to delivery. And the agent's like, perfect. So we wasn't sure if he was going to be able to get to the delivery today or if it would be tomorrow morning. It's scheduled for tomorrow morning. So I sent him a text message. I said, it's going to be first thing in the morning that it gets delivered. He's like, perfect, right on time. And then he calls me and he said, hey, if you're interested, we have 4 more of those loads coming up. So hopefully you guys can cover a few of them for me. So I'm like, well, let me know what your day and your times are. And so we're working on that right now. So you might get one off of a load board, but you know, whenever you run for that agent and they realize that you're going to respond to their emails or text messages, that means a lot to keep them updated. So we do use DAT a lot and truck stop a lot.
Yeah. And then you know, and this is actually something that one of our first ever invited guests talked about in the first sort of iteration of these events, which you can see the recordings of all of those on YouTube as well. Dale Prax, who's the CEO and president of Expedite Freight, he gave us a lot of, he's a broker, and he gave us a lot of tips. And that's exactly what he said. He said, you know, when you're first starting out, you're going to be using load boards. You should be using a lot of them, because if you only rely on one, it can get really overwhelming and you might not find exactly what you're looking for. So you want a number of load boards up there that you like. Depending on what kind of equipment you have, those load boards might look very different. So DAT might be really great for someone running semis, but maybe not so much for box trucks. I know we have someone on here for with box trucks, and I'd love to learn what kinds of load boards you're using. If you want to share that in the chat, someone knows a good load board for hot shot. That can also be different. Also depends on how you search for them and what categories you're using. But really what Dale said was, look, your goal should actually be to get off of the dependency of using load boards. Right. That should be the ultimate goal. So you're going to continue to use those, and you're probably going to use them forever, right, in some capacity. But your priority should be in creating relationships with customers so that they want to call you again and again. And that's the reality, right? And I know, Heather, when we were talking yesterday, you had mentioned about getting the best rates, some of your strategies, and that really centers around customer relationships. Can you talk about the relationship between getting the best rates and building those relationships with customers?
We have built relationships, so with particular agents or brokers, and they keep a tab of that. You know, there was an incident just last week where a load carried over for 2 weeks. We waited for the reload for 2 weeks. Wow. And when Troy called in to give them an update, the broker said, we would really appreciate it if you would just tough this out. And Troy said, you're an awful good agent. I can't just give up. You know, I can't just be like, just take me off this load. He's dedicated. When he says he's going to take something, he does it. And the broker came back and said, you're one of our better carriers. I would just really like to hang on to you. I don't want to make you upset. That itself will, when they go to paid attention and they say, we will give you X amount of dollars a day, you know, what are you willing to settle for? And if you go up just a little bit, they'll probably work with you. I'm right. Talking $25 or so, you know, they'll go up, they'll work with you. And so whenever we call that agent back, they look back at your record. You've been on time. You've held to your responsibilities. You haven't had claims. You are nice to the shipper and receiver, and the shipper and receiver remember you. And that all helps when it comes to the offers that they give you.
Right. Because if you can increase, I mean, let's say you're hauling something for $700. If every time you do that for a broker, you increase it by $25 or $50, the
Right.
fourth and fifth time that you're doing it, that's going to be a significantly better rate, right? So it is about the long game. There is no get rich quick strategy that actually works in trucking. It really is playing the long game and building those relationships so that people trust you and can feel like they can depend on you.
At the same time, we just got Troy's gonna pick up a load Friday, similar to a load that he just come off of. Since we've proven ourselves with this company, they gave us an extra $200 on this upcoming load. So it can mount pretty quick.
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'd love to know what other load boards people are using. If you want to share that in the chat, we'd really appreciate that, to see what are people using these days. What do they like? What do you not like about your load boards or other places that you're finding those loads? Heather, what kinds of tips do you have for people who are just starting out dispatching themselves? This is a really, really, really tough market right now for carriers. What kinds of tips do you have for people who are looking at the rates on load boards, or maybe not even seeing rates posted and they have to come up with a rate? What tips do you have for getting a good rate from a new broker that you've never worked with?
I used the lookup on DAT, and it gives you, it'll either be the 15-day average or the 30-day average. It depends on which agents or which way they post it on there for that area. And it gives you a high range and a low range. So, I then in turn take the amount of the 15 or the 30-day, and I figure out how much that's going to be per mile to see if it's going to be something that I'm even going to be able to do. Because if it's under our running cost, and I know how much that is. So if I'm going to have to ask for considerable more, it's probably not going to work. But that's a good starting point for me, is to look at that 15, 30-day average.
Right. And then you mentioned knowing your cost, right? And
yes.
That's the biggest challenge for some people, is keeping track of those costs and updating that information, updating that data, and actually calculating your cost per mile and knowing what to include and what not to include. What are some of the things, we were talking about this yesterday, what are some of the things that you include in that cost per mile calculation when you're making that analysis?
I look at our insurance cost. I look at our maintenance cost, the price of tires, oil changes. Those are all considered maintenance, all the way down to my windshield wiper blades. I know that sounds ridiculous, but that's a cost.
Yeah.
And it also, my time is worth something, and Troy's time is worth something. We have to be able to, I guess you'd say, pay for ourselves. Otherwise, I'm just paying for the truck to move, and
right.
you deserve something. So, I mean, I don't figure that by much, but
right.
With the market being so tough.
Right. In really good times, you can, afford to pay yourself more, and in tough times, maybe it's a little more modest, but I think that's a really good point. Obviously, fuel is an enormous expense. You've probably already figured that out, per mile, how much fuel is costing these days. But in your cost per mile, including something for yourself as the business owner is really important. I think that's a mistake that a lot of people make when they're an owner operator, is they won't put in their own driver salary. And it's true that maybe you don't have a driver on staff that you're, paying additionally. But like you said, your time is worth something. If you're not able to make ends meet owning your own business, then it's not going to be worth it, right? For your own mental, physical, financial health, you have to take care of that first. As a business owner, no one is going to do that for you, right?
Right.
You're not employed by anyone except yourself, so you should include that. There's actually a really great tool. It's called Trucker Calculator. It's actually free to use. You can go in and check out if you are not sure how to calculate your cost per mile, or your cost per mile maybe is a little outdated, because it can definitely change with the times, especially with fuel changing so much, insurance changing every year. You know, compliance and all of that, costs can change throughout the year and over the years. So make sure you're updating that. We always recommend people do it every month. So update your cost per mile every single month, just to track it, just to see how you're doing. Because maybe you were able to, you know, run 50 cents or 30 cents cheaper back when you know, fuel prices were down earlier this year, but now you've really got to ask for more. And the more people know how to do that, the better the rates will go overall, right? Because collectively, if all of the carriers move that bar up, then everybody's going to benefit from that. So can you walk us through your process? I know you use TrueTMS. And that is a really important tool for you. Can you walk us through the process of what you do? You get the load, and I think a lot of people focus on, how do I get a better rate? How do I get a better rate? How do I get a better rate? That's all people want to know about, except that there's actually a lot that happens after you get a rate, any rate, that determines how much actually stays in your pocket, and then how willing that broker is to work with you again. So can you go through your process and show us a little bit on, I know George is going to be able to share his screen to look at TrueTMS. Can you explain to us how you use that?
After I talk to the agent, get the load, get the rate con, that's just the beginning. Then, so this is the dashboard whenever you come into True. So you'll go to new load, and then you'll click on the customer. So over here, you'll see the drop-down menu that he just had up. This gives you the option of how you want to put your numbers in. If you just want to go with your BOL number, you can do that. So you'll put your BOL number in there, and then your date. And then if you click on the date, says one time, or you can do it every day, that drop-down menu is there for you.
Right.
However,
so if you have a recurring dedicated lane, then that you know is going to be scheduled, that's what that would be for.
Yes. Yes. And then whenever you go over to the shipper, you click that, and you can click who you need if they're already in there. Now there's something that I do. I'm not sure if you have it or not. Sometimes we run for the same company, but they're in 2 different towns. So after Grandma's Kitchen, we're based out of Iowa. So after Grandma's Kitchen, I would put Des Moines if we have 2 different locations, and Mason City. I'd make 2 different entries, so that whenever I go in there, I know, oh, that's the Mason City one. That's the one I need.
And can you describe, Heather, how are you managing this before you had a TMS, or have you always used a TMS?
When we first started out, we didn't have a TMS. I didn't even know what TMS was.
Yeah.
Learned a lot. We did the write it down in a notebook, keep it on graph paper, on an Excel sheet. We went through a lot before I found out what TMS was. And we found a TMS that was more difficult than it had to be. That's several years ago. And now we're with TrueTMS. And this is so easy. It's literally 3 pages and that's it. Okay, so he put Grandma's Kitchen in there, and then you can click on your date. You can click on the date and it'll drop down a little menu. There it is, or the little calendar. And then whenever you go down to your times, the outside of the little clock is morning hours and the inside of the clock is afternoon hours. And the thing that I like about this is if it says on my paperwork, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm like, oh, okay. Or if it says 1500, I'll be like, oh, that's 3 o'clock. some people don't know
that, aren't familiar with
military
that.
time.
Right.
And then
It's
you can
more
set
common outside the US, but I don't think it's really common here.
Right. And then you can click what time that you're going to give yourself to load, and then your goods to ship, and you can put in there, oh, he put dough. Okay. And then put your freight amount and your dollar. Nope, just your weight. And then validate, and then your receiver, who it's going to go to, and the date that you're delivering, and then the times that they're available for delivery. And I put if they give me a wide range, I put the entire range in there. So when your driver looks at it, they know they have from 8 o'clock in the morning till 3 o'clock in the afternoon to get there.
So once you fill all this information out, your driver, who in this case is also a business owner, but in other people's cases might be the driver, right? Once you fill out all this information, they can have it also on their phone with the TrueTMS app and say, oh, okay, I've got all this information. I know who I'm looking for. I know what times it is. There's no guesswork involved anymore, right? Did you send me this email? I thought you texted me this. And there's a lot of confusion, I think, that can happen, even if it is just two business owners talking to each other.
Yes. And the nice thing is whenever TrueTMS sends it to their phone, if they open it, and I have put any notes in there, like I said, we're flatbed Conestoga, requires six chains, 4 straps, whatever it is. It will all be in their little notes.
Right.
Just like he's adding. Now, I can send a note to just my customer, to just my dispatcher, or just my driver, or I can send it to everyone. Everyone would be able to see it. So that's kind of nice too, because then everybody stays on the same page.
Right. Absolutely.
So, on my documents, my documents, I put everything in this area. I put a copy of my rate con. I put a copy of the BOLs from pickup and delivery. I even go in after we get paid for the load and upload a copy of the payment. So, and make sure and click on include an invoice. Otherwise, you won't see it whenever you open the invoice.
Right. And I think the document management here is so critical because of the issues with payments with loads. Because unfortunately, the industry is so decentralized and there's so many different people, involved in different steps. And sometimes there are people involved in different steps that shouldn't be involved at all and will try to take advantage of carriers not being organized, right? And when you have all of your documents organized, there's no question who delivered this load, who should get paid for it, because unfortunately there's a lot of bad actors out there right now, especially now in the last year. Fraud has gone through the roof, a lot of double brokering happening, a lot of stuff that's putting carriers in really, really bad situations with brokers, not getting paid, and going out of business. We've seen people go out of business from double brokered loads. So if you are as religious about document organization as Heather is, even for people out on the road, because I know that's hard. It's not easy to stay organized when you're out on the road. But if you can do that and you have a system like that, it can really help you out, and it can help you avoid some of those situations where people aren't getting paid.
So real quick too, this is one place that you can do the upload of the document, and obviously this is at the order generation. But as Troy, Heather's husband who's driving, is at a particular shipper and is done with his loading, he can then scan the bill of lading using the mobile driver workflow, which then stitches it to what you see here. So you don't have to wait to Heather gets it at the office to upload the document. The documents are switched on the road. So to give it to take to your point there about being on the road and being organized, it's easy as using your phone. It's already attached to everything, and Heather can hit the button, hit invoice, and has everything there.
Yeah. The same can be said for the Bobtail mobile app. So if you're factoring with us at Bobtail, you can use the mobile app. If you're out on the road, we have a scanning feature. You just scan the image there, upload it to the Bobtail app, and you're good to go. And that's one thing that I do want to point out quickly for anyone on the call. I know Jose just came on. I know we have a couple of our own Bobtail customers, so shout out to them on the line tonight. But if you, one of our main tips for people who are factoring really with anyone, but we can only really speak for our own factoring service, is send us your documents as soon as humanly possible. Right. Because if a load has been double brokered, and you send that paperwork to the wrong person, then you might not get paid for that load. If you only send it to your TMS, internally, or you only send it to your factoring company, or at least with Bobtail, if you send it to us, we will make sure to bill the right person. We'll see the rate con, we'll get the BOL, we'll be able to identify, is there something fishy about this? Maybe we need to take another look. Maybe we need to call the broker and verify some stuff. But if you just text it to somebody or email it to somebody that really shouldn't have it, there's not a whole lot we can do at the end of the day. So that's just a tip for anybody factoring with us. Can you tell us about, so you've got billing here, you've got, you can send all the information to the driver, but talk to us about when they're out on the road. What are some of the things that you use TrueTMS for? You've got all your information in here, but how is TrueTMS helpful when you are out for delivery?
Out for delivery, the tracking, the live tracking. I just used this morning. I got a call from a agent at 7 o'clock this morning. So you'll be able to see, it shows where this person is. Is that you?
That's my house. That's my house. Yeah.
So it shows you how fast he's going. It shows you what truck he's in. Can you click on that for me again so you can put, there we go. And it shows you where the load is going and what load it is. And then whenever he gets to his destination. Now, this is really nice. George, is there any way you can click satellite for me, please?
Yep.
So right here.
It's the start of the trip. So now you can see I'm here.
Right. Yeah, he's on his way to his pickup, it looks like.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So you can see exactly where he's at and what's around him. This is how I knew that Troy was going in to pay for his fuel this morning, because I could see his little person in the building. It shows me where his little dot was. See how it's show in his house? So
yeah,
this is very, very nice when you can't get a hold of your driver. Maybe they're out fueling. Maybe they left their phone in the truck while they went in to get paperwork. And it shows you where they're at. It shows where they're at on the load. And it also does, I'm not sure, there's, George, can you go back just a minute for me so I can see the events of your trip?
Yep.
There it is. Events. This is everything, the date and the time that a check call was made. They arrived at their pickup or delivery. whatever the occasion is. So I don't have to constantly call drivers and ask, hey, where are you? What time are you going to get there? And that helps a lot.
Seeing this, it's kind of hard to imagine not using a TMS when you're running a trucking company, because there are so many details to deal with and to track. It's amazing to me. It's most owner operators don't use one, right? And it almost seems like it's more important for you know, 1 or 2 person business to use a TMS, because you don't have that extra person on hand to say, hey, will you give them a call while, you know, I'm on the phone with the broker? Will you give the driver a call? You don't have the luxury of doing that.
Well, and you cut down on the aggravation. If I was to call you and go, hey, where are you at? When are you going to get to your pickup? Hey, where are you at? When are you going to get to delivery? Your driver is going to be like, you know what? I'll get there. You know, then you start getting aggravation worked into it. If I can see where they're at, I don't have to call them. They don't have to take their eyes off the road to put their headset on, or, you know, we're saving a lot of aggravation, a lot of time, a lot of distraction. Well, George and TrueTMS is, especially for me, I've used it so much. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of benefits to that. Like I said yesterday, we have winter weather coming in, and I don't know, I get concerned. We live up north, and I like to know that they're okay, and it updates rather quickly for me anyway.
Right. That's actually a really good point. I hadn't considered that before. But
and you'll see on the screen here in a second, I just say that I arrived at my next stop, how it just updated. The dispatcher will get the notification in the bottom right telling you, hey, George just arrived. At my drop off.
Yeah, and I hadn't considered the safety implications of this, right? If you're constantly calling your driver, when's your ETA, when's your ETA, when's your ETA, how many times are they taking their eyes off the road to look at their phone, answer the call? There's already so much pressure on drivers to get there quickly and be on time. You know, with all of the regulation around how many hours and how many hours of rest and on the clock and all of that, the fewer distractions you can give your drivers, the safer they're going to be, and ultimately the more money you're going to be able to pull in, and the better job you can give to that driver too.
Right. And something else, if your driver's ever running behind, True will also give you a red notice. Your driver is 45 minutes behind schedule. And you know, then it'd be like, okay, what's going on? Do I need to call somebody? Do I need to, at that point, I just contact them to make sure that they're okay and the load's okay. But it does give me a notice. And the nice thing is if we have 2 trucks, even though we have 1 driver. So when I put in 3 loads in True last night for upcoming week, it will show one of our trucks sitting in our driveway, and the other truck is having some work done on it. It'll show it in the town that it's in. So if you have more than 1 person running for you, it will show you individuals, and it will break down. If you click on the second one, it will tell you, there we go. It'll tell you where it's at and what load it's on.
Right. So you can see, all right, who's available. So if you're running multiple trucks out there, this would be really critical to understanding, all right, who's available, what truck is available, what can we do today, and what can I book, would really help you in planning.
Yes. And their planning tool is wonderful. I use it on a regular basis. It will give you, just like he pulled up. So Billy Test, he is going to be from point A to point B. There you go. And he can set that where it's at, where he needs it to be. And the timeline, if you're planning ahead, the timeline will tell you where that driver is going to be and when they're going to be available.
Right.
This is a very useful. It took me a little while to get used to it because I wasn't used to having this capability, but it's now my second click now. First is tracker and second is planning.
Absolutely.
And then just recently we've partnered with truckstop.com and 123 load board. So if you have an account, you can use the load board within TrueTMS to find the loads. So Chicago to New York. Sorry, Heather, didn't mean to step on you.
You're good.
Right. And you can see those loads on there, and you can then enter all of the information directly from that load board into the TMS, skip some of those extra steps.
Yes.
Get your rate con at here. You can, and it's already calculated your invoice, your pay, your line haul, all based off the information from the load board.
Yeah, that's incredible. Like I said, it's hard to imagine running a trucking company without a platform like this. And I can see the spreadsheets craze right now in my head of how many spreadsheets you would need to get all of this information and keep track of it. So that's really the beauty of it.
Real quick too, when we were saying about how the driver would scan those documents and it goes to the invoice. Like, for example, this one here is a load that was completed and it's in process for invoicing. Here's the invoice, all the pertinent details, all that was, what tractor, all the stuff that you need to know. And then here's my scanned documents, right? The bill of lading from the drop, bill of lading from pickup, and my payment from brokerage. I mean, that was supposed to be the rate con, but I just scanned things real quick so you would see how it stitches. And this is what you would send to you guys for payment.
Right.
And this is a really nice ad that I've never had before, is the little envelope. Because as long as you put their email address in and you hit that envelope, it will send it to you. It'll send it where it's going.
Right.
That's so nice, because then you don't have to take time out and print everything off, scan it all in, and then create a new email. I mean, we used to not think anything about that, but we didn't have this little button.
Well, and if you save, 5 minutes every couple of hours over the course of a week, that's more than an hour.
Right.
Right
Heather,
there.
you had something similar. Yeah, Heather had something similar to that, and that's why they can build those relationships. I think, Heather, you had said something about that when in that article that you were in, something about the time that you saved.
Oh, yeah, it's amazing. It is amazing, because now I can do other things where before I was stuck in front of my computer for hours. And we have one driver right now. So, we add another one on in, 6 months or so. That's going to put me even further behind. But now everything is so easy, click, and it saves so much. When I can send one message to a customer and driver at the same time, instead of I have to send out two. And the other thing is you miss one letter on an email address and it's lost forever.
Right.
And when you have it in here, every time you pull up Grandma's Kitchen, it's going to pull that email address.
Right.
So it's typed correctly.
Right. No, that's really critical. And I think a lot of people don't realize how important it is to get things quickly and be as responsive as you can. That was one thing that we learned from the broker that was on our first event. And one of the things he said was, if you can provide things proactively to me, that is no one does that. So if you do that, you're really going to stand out from the crowd. you know, as soon as you get the you're talking to me about booking a load with me, and you can send me all of your information really quickly, and we can get everything sorted in your carrier packet and all of that really quickly. And then you do a great job and you're giving me updates. All of that is worth a lot because it's not the norm in the industry. So the carriers that do that and have the time to do that are really pulling ahead.
That was one of the first things I did with our company is I put everything in one file and I named it Carrier Pack.
Yeah.
And I'm on the phone with you. I'm like, what is your email address? And I'm typing it as you're telling me. And I click on the Carrier Pack and it goes right to you. And I'm like, can you please check your email? It should be there. Now, given firewalls and stuff like that, but
we actually just have a blog that's going to go up about carrier packets and how to put those together. So people can keep an eye on that. All of those things to look out for with carrier packets, the kind of main documents that you need, and then some extra special ones that you can add that you don't always need exactly. They won't necessarily ask you for it. But again, being proactive. If they don't ask you for an equipment list, it doesn't mean they don't want to see an equipment list. It's because they didn't think to ask you for an equipment list.
Right.
But if you have, additional equipment more than what they're asking you for that load, and you do a great job, well, now they know, right? They didn't necessarily ask you for a nice, one pager about your company with your logo on it, which is something I saw that you have, Heather. But it doesn't mean that it wouldn't want to see it. So if you add that into your carrier packet, that's what makes a good first impression. They're going to see that. They're going to say, wow, this person really has it together. Any final advice that you have for Heather, for people just starting out? We've talked about building relationships. We've talked about staying organized, getting a TMS so that you have all of your information in one place. We've seen how that works in action. Any other advice that you have for carriers out there who are just starting out?
Only thing I can think of is make sure that you have a TMS system. I know you're like, oh, I don't know, that's kind of scary. It's a big step. Yeah, it's a big step. I really like True because TrueTMS, it is just ask you to fill in the blanks. You don't have to come up with the questions. You just have to put in what it asks for. And they have so many good capabilities that it might take you just a minute to know what each thing has in it. Take the time to do it. It's going to make your job a lot easier. It's going to make your day go so much smoother. And always ask. It doesn't matter what question it is. Always ask. So, for instance, you made a comment about the capability statement that what I sent you yesterday evening.
Yeah.
So you can pay for someone to make that for you. So I've done a little digging. We have an SBA outreach in Des Moines that does it for free. And they give you a counselor or someone to contact about different questions. Just ask. Any question that you have. The wheel's already been made. Don't try to recreate it because it's hard. We started out doing that, but we soon learned we just need to follow the wheel. So it will make your life a lot easier if you have your carrier pack together, and it will make it a lot easier if you use a TMS system. So
great advice. Yeah, and there still is an alarming number of small trucking companies that are not using TMSs. George, do you have any last final advice for carriers out there, especially given this market now? What are some words of wisdom that you can impart?
Well, just like you just said there about the alarming amount of small carriers that aren't using technology in the form of a TMS, I think the numbers say right now 80% of all small carriers less than 10 trucks, 80% do not use a TMS, right? Technology is not meant to be scary. It's meant to help you, not hurt you. You know, we're using technology in every facets of our life. It should not matter, you know, in your business. Your truck is very technology, you know, a lot of text, you know, Internet of Things, sensors, so forth. Why shouldn't you be able to use the cutting edge technology out there to make your life that much easier? I mean, like you said a minute ago, saving those 5 minutes a day, you know, that's a half hour a week that you're saving. That half hour, you can then call on a new broker or call on an old shipper you haven't delivered in a while and see how they're doing. Relationships go a long way in this industry. This is a very large industry, but it's a very small industry. You know, those relationships go much further, especially in the small owner operator independent contractor world. It's a band of brothers and sisters, and you know, I'm just here to help. So again, TrueTMS might not be the right solution for you, but I'm willing here to help find that solution for you. I've offered that before. The last time I was on with you guys, I'm going to offer it again. People can contact me if they have any questions. Heather is a great resource right there in Iowa. You know, I met Heather and Troy at the Truckers Jamboree on, you know, I-80. So they're always on the I-80 path. So if you ever see the you know, their Conestoga right there with the, you know, big blue and the Marine logo, stop and say hi to them, right? You know, Aurora, I think is the name, right?
That's her name.
Yes.
Yes, we name our girls.
Yeah. So I mean, my only advice is don't be afraid to ask your fellow trucker out there. Your guys are all in the same basket together. The only way this industry is going to get better is by becoming smarter, right? Not taking loads for the sake of taking loads. Take loads that make you money, right? And how do you do that? You got to know your cost per mile, and you know, and be professional about it. You know, the days of the driver being professionally looking is unfortunately kind of gone to the wayside, but it doesn't mean you can't act professional, right? So, but yeah, so that's my soapbox story, and I'll get off of it and let everybody, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's a great, that's great advice. Knowing your cost per mile, building relationships. I think those are the two main things that I'm taking away there for getting loads and getting good paying loads. And then once you have those, continuing to build those relationships and using tools that help you do that in meaningful ways, so that if the broker calls you at 7:30 in the morning, you can answer and say, yeah, let me just load this screen really quick and I'll tell you exactly where my driver is. That means that it's not, well, I'll call you back and oh, my driver didn't pick up and shoot, I don't know. You know, the quicker you can get responses, the quicker you can get data and information, the better. Someone asked, and I know this is a bit off topic, but it is related to the topic of getting payment and organizing your information, the information for your business. Jones Logistics asked how to file against a broker's surety bond. I do think that this is happening a lot more. A lot of brokers are unfortunately going out of business. Unfortunately, that means that they have unpaid invoices and pending invoices. There is a way to file on the broker surety bond. And actually, Veronica sent me some news this afternoon that the FMCSA gave us a big win very recently. I think just today it was announced that now they're going to implement over the next 2 years a rule that will put the broker's MC authority out if their surety bond balance goes below $75,000, which is huge because that means that then carriers will know whether or not a broker's surety bond is being filed on. And that's huge. We don't have that transparency right now, and that could be a really big deal. So we'll definitely talk more about that in blogs and and videos coming forth. But filing on the surety bond, we do have a blog that talks about this. I left it in the chat there. It's called What to Do If a Broker Doesn't Pay. There's all kinds of information on there about what to do if they don't pay, if you have a short pay, for example. So if they pay you, but they don't pay you as much as you agreed on, or if they don't pay you at all. And the last step, of course, is to file a claim on their surety bond. There's information and pretty detailed instructions there. If you want more information on that, we can certainly get it to you. So visit us at bobtail.com or email us. Email me at hello@bobtail.com because I am the person, of course, naturally that looks at that inbox. So if you have more questions on that, definitely let me know. And then do a call on safety scores. Jessica, absolutely. Let's do it. Safety scores, that's a great topic for a future event. 2 weeks from now, we're going to be doing another event in Spanish that is going to be focused on how to avoid fraud and double brokering. So that's going to be in Spanish on November 30th. We will send all of our Spanish speakers an email about that. And then in December, we are going to do an event with Trucker Calculator. So if you heard, I should know my cost per mile. Shoot, I don't know what that is. I need a refresher on that. We're going to do an event with Trucker Calculator in December to show you exactly and walk you through step by step how to do that. And if you are also interested in, if you have, whether you have a factoring service or not, if you're factoring with us, let us know. I know, Jose, you're here, but let us know if we're doing a good job by giving us a review on Google. And with that, I would like to call on Veronica Blanco, who's going to talk to us a little bit about Bobtail's factoring service and how it can really protect your business in these tough economic times. So Veronica, take it away.
Yes, thank you very much, Caroline. And actually, I'm very happy to tell everyone, you guys are already doing your homework, just being present in these workshops, being informed, and just learning from each other. I think this is the best that we can do. Wow, TrueTMS, there's so much, right, to learn from, and this helps us stay organized. One of the best things that we do here at Bobtail is we share information. Caroline does a great job. She educates everyone on, hey, what's coming up, what's going on, how do we run our business better? And it's very important for all of us to pay attention to these little tiny things, because these things actually are the ones that are going to help us not spend too much money where we don't have to. For example, factoring services. One of the greatest things that we have here at Bobtail is we don't have long-term contracts. A lot of factoring companies out there, they're signing you up to long-term contracts, and they're also on top of termination fees, they're adding extra charges, such as an invoice fee, a reserve fee, whatever it is, you name it, they're charging you for it. And in times like this, let's be honest, we can't afford to be paying things that we really don't need to be paying. So Bobtail stands out for that. Another thing that Bobtail stands out for is, the owner of the company is someone that has been in this business. He was the father to a just like some of you in this meeting right now. He already knows the ins and outs. He knew that being with a factoring company that has the option to do a 30-day agreement is very important, because it gives you that sense of peace of mind that if anything were to happen, and I know and I promise you that you're not going to want to cancel with Bobtail, but if anything has to happen, you make a decision who you want to factor with. There shouldn't be anything retaining you from moving forward if you're not happy in a company. And that's very important, not signing up with a long-term contract. In any case, if you have any contract with any factoring company, you guys can reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to go over your contract and see how we can switch you over. A lot of contracts out there are very long and lengthy, and they have so much information. We get confused. Our legal team is more than happy to look at that. We can definitely look at any loopholes where we can definitely transition you to our company and stop paying those extra fees. We like to be very transparent. We only charge you for factoring your invoice. That's it. You don't expect any other charges, and that's the way it should be. So with that said, I'm very thankful to have this opportunity to know everyone is actually interested in learning more. And if you ever have a friend that you would like to refer to Bobtail, please share the information with them, and we'll be more than happy to reach out. Thank you so much, guys.
Absolutely. Thanks, Berto. I know we had someone with a dispatching company on the call. We also have an affiliate program that Veronica, you manage. And so if you're interested in joining that, we have that available. So email us hello@bobtail.com. We'll get you set up. Again, bobtail.com. You can learn more about our factoring service, and our phone number is on the screen there if you ever want to get a hold of us. So with that, we will be sending you a link here in the chat for a survey to let us know how we did. We really want to know, and Jessica, I really appreciate you suggesting another topic. We also want to know from everybody else, what other topics would you like to hear about? Do you want to hear about negotiating with brokers? Do you want to hear about safety scores? Do you want to hear about compliance? Do you want to hear about legal, how to legally set up your business or separate personal and business finances? We also have a pending partnership with a company that might be able to help with that kind of topic. We're going to work on cost per mile calculator next month, so keep an eye out for that on our Facebook group, and also again doing our next event in Spanish. So Alejandra, if you can send in the chat the link to our survey, that will be great. We'll also put it in the email that we send you with the recording as well, so you can let us know how we did. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining. I want to give a big shout out to TrueTMS and Heather for joining us today. Heather with TB Trucking, definitely check them out. TrueTMS is TrueTMS.com, and they do have a free trial that you can use to check it out and use it yourself. And with that, thank you so much. If there are any questions, again, email us and we'll be in touch soon. Thanks, everyone.